Here's Rich from Tennessee Homestead, sneaking back around from the back of the camera. Not sure what I'm going to title this. A neighbor of mine that watched the video on GMOs versus common sense, he had a question he popped at me the other day that made me think a little bit. Because what he said made a lot of sense, and I'm a big one on common sense. He said if a company who was making a food product, he said, why would they knowingly make their customers sick? It would seem if you were sick that you'd be eating less and it'd hurt your business. Thought about that one for a bit. I told him, I said, I'm going to kind of look at that a little harder. And I said, because like I said at the beginning of the whole thing, I'm not an expert. And don't even play an expert on TV or on YouTube. I told him, give me a few weeks, I'll take a look at and see if there's some sort of connection that would make sense. And I left it at that. That evening after I came in from working, and took my shower and was sitting around with my feet up a little bit, I decided to finish reading that very magazine that started this whole thing. And one of the articles I ran across was the top 5 or 6, I think 6, companies that produce GMO seeds, and that they were involved in these massive mergers, lots of them. And it was more of a business article talking about the direction that the industry's headed in and things of this nature. But I started looking at some of the companies, and then started finding cross connections in some of these companies, which made me have to sit back and go, there's the connection. Folks, out of these 6 companies that were involved in all these big mergers and things of this nature, some of the names you're going to know, some you're not. One of them that jumps right out at you is a company that you probably have their products in your medicine cabinet. It's called Bayer. It's a pharmaceutical company, folks. Then you move down to a company that was in partnership with Monsanto on development of this stuff, and then sold off their shares back to Monsanto to get out of it in 2000, probably fearing that the publicity could kill them if it ever came out. And that's the Eli Lilly company. Once again, large pharmaceutical company. Move on down the line, there's a company that was formed up in 2000. And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but I'm going to give it a try. It's Syngenta is the name of the company. And it's a company that was formed, and this name you might not know. It's oh heavens, what, Novantis or something like that. Novatis, Novantis. And this one you will know, AstraZeneca. Both pharmaceutical companies. So out of these 6 companies that are taking over the seed market, and I'll give you the information on that in a minute, taking over the seed market, you will find that 3 out of the 6 are pharmaceutical companies, thus answering the question of who would stand to profit from you getting sick from GMO products. There's your answer, folks. Big pharma's is behind GMO. It gets worse. What they are doing is like Bayer. Since 1998, they've acquired 5 major seed producers. 5. Dow. Okay, now they did buy out the Eli Lilly company back in '97, but they have acquired 7 major seed production companies. 7 since 1998. Wow. Get down to DuPont, and they've acquired 8 seed companies. And they started their acquisitions back in 1998. Then we hit one of my favorites, Monsanto. Monsanto has acquired 15 large seed companies since 1997. And then you get down into our partnership between 2 large pharmas, and they have acquired 7 seed companies since 2000. Now, a lot of these they've acquired more, and some of the acquisitions were to do away with the companies. They just closed them up. I believe Monsanto closed down 35 seed manufacturers. 35. So you're talking about 50 of the nation's largest seed companies were brought under the control of Monsanto and either utilized for their products under different assorted brand names, or were just closed up. I think DuPont, they shut down like 8. So, they acquired even more, but out of the 7 is the ones that they kept. 15 is what Monsanto kept. Kind of interesting. So they're buying up seed companies, and they're shutting some of them down and using what brands they can use to put this GMO product out on the market. But in doing, and folks, when I'm talking about doing research, I spent 2 hours just Googling names and then following the links and finding where they lead me at these companies. Not in-depth research. Okay, so here again, not an expert. One of the things that I found is out of one of the seed companies, and I'm not going to name its name, I don't want to get into that kind of nonsense, but it was one of Dow's companies, Dow Chemical. Our particular group that handled that is Dow AgroSciences. I was reading their licensing agreement, and in that agreement, I found that their product was tied to some other manufacturers, names that are probably somewhat familiar to you. That you were tied to Monsanto, they are tied into Bayer, and they're tied into the Syngenta. All 3 companies. Wow. Kind of interesting, huh? Why would these competing companies be forming up these partnerships like that? I mean, that's like Ford and Chevy getting together to market cars. Sounds a little strange. So, I was reading these folks' websites. I mean, they're out there, and most of them are pretty generic, or shall we say genetic in their case. But for the most part, one really caught me, and that's the Syngenta groups, because they started talking about in their website sustainable agriculture. And I clicked on that link to see what they were talking about as far as sustainable agriculture. And it takes you back into the UN and Agenda 21. it's like, wait a minute, this is getting into tinfoil hat areas. Yeah, their company creed and motto is to, by 2030, to have 2030. That's not that far off, folks. To have implemented Agenda 21, at least in the area of agriculture. Not an expert on Agenda 21, read a few things, seen a few things, and that is not a good program for Americans. You need to understand that Agenda 21 is basically a program where, according to world standards, if you're living in a 3-bedroom ranch and barely paying your bills and driving a car and eating 3 times a day, you are wealthy, according to world standards. You're up here. A lot of the undeveloped world, I don't know if you can see this, but is down here. Agenda 21 has to bring those two together. That's its goal. Everybody is the same. Everybody has the same. Your lifestyle changes. This has been something going on for decades. Okay? Be advised. Read Agenda 21. People are trying to push that off as being this great sustainable, and that's the word you're going to keep hearing. Now, I use the word sustainable a lot. Sustainable agriculture to me is farming practices that doesn't leave my land sterile, to where it continues to produce year after year without any additional inputs. That's sustainability. Your land can sustain farming activities without you putting chemicals on it. Sustainable lifestyle, where you raise, grow, and produce everything you need to survive. Okay? These are what sustainable means to most of us. It is not what it means to these folks. You cannot take and put your lifestyle and compare it to somebody who's, say, living in Zimbabwe. Okay? The mere fact is you're going to live far, far, far better than somebody in Zimbabwe. But this Agenda 21 is a lot of nonsense to bring us all down to the same level. Start looking. Now, I'm not saying get out on the YouTube and the internet and start looking at every conspiracy theory out there. That is not the way I do my research, and it shouldn't be the way you do yours. You need to go to the organizations, get the documentation that points to these things, that stuff like sustainable agriculture and Agenda 21 through the UN, and read the articles themselves. And they're going to have links going back to different conferences where they came to different agreements and blah, blah, blah. Go back to those conferences. Read those agreements. So that way you're not dealing in tin hat stuff. You're dealing in the black and whites put out by these units. Do that. Okay? Really start looking at this, folks. I don't want to become an expert because I got to be honest with you. I didn't like what I found, and I'm no expert. I just did a couple hours worth of, let me check on these companies that happen to be in this magazine. I'll bet there's more, and a lot more connections. So yeah, there is definitely something going on with this GMO stuff. They started it out in the late 80s. They really started pushing hard in the 90s, and by 2000 it just exploded. Like I said in my barn chat this week, you're making a difference. You are making a difference. But you're up against some bigger people playing in this than Monsanto. Matter of fact, most of the companies that are involved in this heavily are as big or bigger than Monsanto. But when your top 6 seed companies, top 6, 3 of them, folks, are pharmaceutical companies, there's your connection. It's a win-win for them no matter how it goes. If you get sick, if your kidneys are failing, if you develop diabetes, if you develop this disease or that disease, lo and behold, they've got a very expensive drug that they can sell you to take care of the problem. No sweat. Allergies. When I was young, even as a young adult, a lot of these gluten intolerances and things of this nature, and the different things we're seeing are so totally common in our children today. They were kids that had that sort of stuff. All the other kids thought, well, you're just sickly. It was pretty rare. Today, it's very common. There's got to be a reason for that, folks. And it's time you start looking for those reasons and see if you can help be part of the solution. But this thing is pretty big. I was surprised. But there was the answer to my friend's question. Why would they do that? Well, it appears that you've got your big pharma in this country so deeply involved in this genetic modification of your food that even if it makes you deathly ill, it just adds to their bottom line. There's your answer, folks. Go and do your own research. I got this out of a trade magazine that was just talking about mergers. And in the mergers, I saw where these people are getting rid of their competition. They're eating them up. And if they can't utilize their facilities, they just shut them down. That's a dangerous thing when you have these kind of companies trying to create a monopoly on where you get your food. Be aware. Do a little homework. And, yeah, it's a bigger problem than I even ever imagined. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much more research I want to do into it because it's a little scary. All right, I wanted to get this out to you. At least give you and like I said, I did a cursory. This was just, here we go, article out of the magazine, do a couple hours on Google, and looking and reading their websites, and that's what I found. Pretty scary. Wow. That's. But it did answer the question. Why do they not care that you get sick from GMOs? Yeah, because they're going to make their money off you anyway. Because if you're sick, you're just going to go buy their pills, and that's where you're at. Okay, I got some stuff still to do. I've taken my little coffee break, and I need to get back to it. So this is Rich from Tennessee Homestead. This is not a fear video. This is a call to educate yourself. This GMO issue is bigger than you think it is. So the more you know, maybe the harder you'll roll up your sleeves and fight it. You folks have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.